In this video, I want to talk about the hidden powers of the document known as the certificate of title. Now, most people, when they get this document, they put it in a filing cabinet, they tuck it away in a drawer someplace, and then it becomes out of sight, out of mind. In fact, on a certificate of title, in the lower margin, there's a subliminal message. It says, "Store in a safe place." That's what people do. They tuck it away and forget all about it. Now, the hidden powers of this document became available around 1971. And I'm going to give you an example. If you were disabled in some way and you applied for it and received a handicap placard, it wouldn't do much good if you left it at home or you left it in the glove compartment. If you had a vehicle next to a parking meter, you would have to publicly display this handicap placard, and then that vehicle, that automobile, would be exempt from that parking fee for at least 1 hour. That handicap placard would create an estoppel, and it would prevent the police officer from issuing the vehicle a parking ticket. So even though the handicap placard does not expressly say that it is a tax exemption notice, but that's its function. It's implied. Another example, your so-called driver's license. It doesn't expressly say that it is an identification card, but that's its function. That's implied. I mean, if you go to a bank to open up a bank account, you have to show them your driver's license as means of identification. So the certificate of title, it has 3 implied functions as of 1971. It is an occupancy permit, it's a tax exemption notice, and it's also an operator's license. So let me continue. On a current title in Pennsylvania, the name is Certificate of Title for a Vehicle. Prior to 1970, the name of the document was Certificate of Title to a Motor Vehicle. The 2 was replaced with 4, and the word motor was removed. That was profound. See, back in 1970-71, these titles were issued by the Department of Revenue, but then the Department of Transportation was created. And then the Bureau of Motor Vehicles was taken out of the Department of Revenue and brought into this new Department of Transportation. So, words on this document have been bastardized. They have multiple meanings. For example, you see the word vehicle and you have tunnel vision and you just assume it talks about the mechanical device, your boy toy parked in front of the house. That word vehicle pertains to this document. You see, in legal land, a certificate of title is a commercial instrument. That means it's a commercial vessel and its cargo is information. And the information that it's carrying is that a name and its number were registered as a person. You see, this was done in the early 1970s to comply with the new international banking regulations that were taking effect. Why? Because documents such as the certificate of origin, the original certificate of title, see, what you receive is only a copy of the certificate of title. These documents, especially the ones retained by the Commonwealth, they're traded on the open market as a commodity. They're worth billions of dollars. Now, to repeat, the word vehicle is actually talking about this document, because this is This vessel is to carry the information that a name and a number were registered as a person. And your name is on this document because you have assumed the liability, and therefore you're the agent on behalf of this named person. And how do you assume liability? Well, when this document comes in the mail, your name appears through that window in the envelope. So when you take this envelope and you open it, breaking the seal, you just assume the liability. It's like a contractual agreement. Yes, when you look closely on this document, like under a forensic microscope, there's nothing on this document that proves or verifies that you own a mechanical device as private property. You see, going back to 1919, almost 100 years ago, the federal government made it illegal for anyone to own an automobile as private property. I use the word automobile to include a truck. And this is why today the certificate of origin is confiscated at the initial point of sale. Now, I'll get back to that in a moment. There's a phrase here that says registered owner. It's in microprint. And people get tunnel vision. They see the word owner and see that, oh, look at that. I own that boy toy parked in front of my house. It's mine. There it is. I own it. Well, that phrase has also been bastardized. I don't know if you can see, but that phrase, there's no colon at the end. That colon is important because that links that phrase to what follows. But yet the colon is used in other places in the document. For example, here it says fuel type. There's the colon, gasoline. It says here first lien favor of. There's the colon. Second lien favor of. The colon. Colon is used in other places, but not there. Why? Why did they omit the colon? Said how they get you, the snare, the trap, is when this document comes in the mail, and when you open the envelope, break the seal, you just assume the liability. So let me continue. This document is an operator's license because starting around the early 1970s, said there was three major things that took place. One is that the VIN plate became public access, displayed through the bottom of the windshield. Two, the name was changed. It says for a vehicle instead of to a motor vehicle. And three, car insurance became mandatory. So when car insurance became mandatory, this document here became bonded. Now, even though it doesn't say that this is an operator's license, it's implied, not expressed. So you have to take this document out of hiding, and you have to start using it. I mean, for example, if you were disabled in some way and you applied for it and received a handicap placard, that placard wouldn't do much good if you left it at home or in the glove compartment. To exercise its benefits, to invoke its protection, you have to publicly display it, usually hang it on the rearview mirror. And that placard creates an estoppel. That vehicle is exempt from the parking fee for at least 1 hour, and it prevents the police officer from issuing that vehicle parking ticket. So instead of having this document tucked away in your filing cabinet, this document belongs inside the mechanical device. In fact, it should go back where it belongs, on the window. At one time, the certificate of title was called a certificate of registration. This was your registration certificate. And it was publicly displayed on the window. It said this document needs to go back where it belongs to invoke its power. Like I said, that's going to be a hard pill to swallow for most people because they are thoroughly convinced their boy toy in front of the house. Look at that. That's my car. See that? I have the keys. I can get it in at any time I want. Well, that's only illusion. You've been victimized by the car porn industry and all that sexually enticing advertising, especially the aroma of the new car smell, and your own self-deception because you were too eager to believe the lie. It's only an urban legend that you can own a mechanical device as private property. On the older titles, see here there was a large verity statement, took about a third of the document. Now you see that seal? That is the actual certificate. The document is not a certificate. That is the certificate. That certifies. Because that certificate is linked to the one making the declaration. In this case, it was this Warren Duffy. He was the Secretary of Revenue at the time. So let's look at the verity statement on a current title. It's like one sentence. And you have to pay close attention to the wording. This one says, I, which would be this Leslie S. Richards, I certify that of the date of issue, the official records of the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation reflect that the person or persons or company named herein is the lawful owner of the said vehicle. That says a lot of nothing. See, there's a redundancy here. In legal land, a company is identified as or defined as a person. Another quirk here, since persons could be plural, I don't know if you can see it here, but the is, are, the is should be actually is/are, but it's not. Well, before your name is printed on this document, how many persons are named on this document? Well, the first person is the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. In legal land, an entity of fiction is defined as a person. The second person is the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. See that? That's the state logo. The third person is this Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. This is a private corporation, tucked away within inside the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. See that logo? That's the logo of a private corporation. We go to State Department. That logo is not registered. Did not receive a registration number. That's a red herring logo. It's a corporate logo. And then the fourth person is this Leslie S. Richards. So when they use the word person in this verity statement, which one are they talking about? You just assume it's you. Another thing here, it says the persons or company named herein. It should say named above. So you have to pay attention to what's missing on this document. I'd rather see it say registered purchaser. You don't see the phrase property transferred to. That's missing. Said people get that tunnel vision on that word owner. Well, down here in this section, you're identified as a tenant. What does that tell you? You're the registered tenant? Well, what is a registered nurse? One issued a license. If you're a registered owner, that means you were issued a license. And this document is a license because it can be revoked. You don't have no trial by jury. This document has a kill switch, so to speak. In the blink of an eye, your name can be removed from this document, from the original. Remember, this is only a copy that you have. And therefore, this is under maritime salvage. The named person could be, its liability reverts back to to the issuer of this document. And I say the one who issued this document is actually a private corporation. Well, anyway, for basic traveling purposes, this is what you carry in the vehicle. You get pulled over, you tell the officer, I'm not engaged in commerce, I'm only traveling as an operator, and here's my operator's license. See that? I have the, you know what, I tell people to bring the envelope. See that, officer? I says, I opened the envelope, broke the seal, I've assumed the liability. There's your evidence that you opened the envelope, took possession of this document, thereby assuming the liability. So I'm the authorized agent of the named person. Now that's going to throw the police officer for a loop, because these guys, they're brainwashed. What's the officer going to say? Oh, that document only proves that you own the vehicle. It's not an operator's license. Well, I hope he would say that, because now it burdens on him to prove it. Says, I dispute that. I said that this mechanical device is federal property. I don't own it. I'm just the authorized agent. So it burdens on him to prove that. You have to wake up. Like I said, your boy toy in front of the house, it's not your property. You're just a tenant. But see, for me, it doesn't matter if the federal government owns the vehicle as property. This document here, this document is worth a lot of money to me, because now I'm going to carry it with me in the vehicle, and now it says when I pull a vehicle next to a parking meter, I'm going to display this document, and hey, I'm exempt. This vehicle is federal property. A municipality cannot tax federal property with their stupid parking meters. Also, pull up to the toll booth. You display your document. I'm exempt. You see, before this document is released and sent in the mail, all taxes have to be paid in full as a single event. There's no expiration date on this document, and there's no fine print that limits its power. And therefore, if it's a tax receipt, then it creates an estoppel when this document when its power is invoked. You don't want to leave this document at home. You take it with you. In fact, like I said, this document has to go back where it belongs, on the window. And if that be true, then why do you even need a so-called registration credential that you have to pay for to get it renewed annually? This document here, like it says, has no expiration date. This document is good for at least 20 years of the life of the vehicle. And in legal land, see, since the mechanical device is federal property, it can never be bought, sold, or traded. So the only thing tangible that can be bought, sold, or traded is this document. That's all. This is what you own. This is the vehicle you own, this piece of paper. Because like I said, its cargo is at a name, and it has its identification number as a person. Yes, this document is the vehicle you own. Not that mechanical device. Not the boy toy in front of the house. So maybe we're going to have to subpoena Leslie S. Richards to testify. That would be interesting. To see what he would have to say under oath. Section 102 of the Vehicle Code has no definition for a certificate of title. And that puzzled me. I mean, a certificate of title is an important document, and yet they failed to list the definition. So several years ago, I went to various police departments in my area. I walked in, it's like going to the desk sergeant. I said, I have a question. I said, I need a written definition for a certificate of title. A lot of police departments, they have all kinds of manuals, tactical manuals, whatever. There is none. In all their manuals, there is no definition for this document. I went to the state police, to their barracks. Talked to the one trooper, and without hesitation, he parried and says, oh, the certificate of title proves that you own the vehicle. And I said, sir, with all due respect, I appreciate your opinion. I said, but I need something in writing to that effect. So do you have anything in writing? I said, if you have to make a photocopy from one of your manuals, I'll be willing to pay for it. Well, the state police have this big blue book, looks like a big Bible. So after looking in that, and they couldn't find anything, he's telling me, so well, you're going to have to go see PennDOT in Harrisburg. And then he mentioned about me going, you know, see what you could find out on the internet and Google. Well, what Google has to say or some cheap dictionary from the dollar store means a hill of beans to me. I want something that was written and promulgated by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So wise. Well, I even wrote a letter to my local state representative. I have another YouTube video about that one, and the reply I got. I asked them for a definition for a certificate of title, and they couldn't answer that question. So maybe we'll have to subpoena this Leslie S. Richards and have him explain what this document is, its functions, either expressed or implied. And since these words are bastardized, you have to treat him as a hostile witness. And I would have to ask him, I says, well, what you would call a vehicle, I call that a mechanical device. That's, you know, where someone gets in it, sits behind the wheel, and they operate it as it moves down a highway. I stay away from that word vehicle because it's bastardized. It's too vague. The word vehicle by itself is too vague and ambiguous. So my first question to him, I says, does this document prove that it's talking about a mechanical device as private property? Yes or no? Then the next question is, if this document is talking about a mechanical device as private property, a tangible device as private property, who owns it? That's going to be a catch-22. Because if he says, oh, well, you know, Mr. Smith here, his name's on there. I says, well, just because Mr. Smith's name is on the document, how does that prove that he owns this mechanical device as private property? If that's the intent of this document. Well, we got a missing colon. There's nothing in the verity statement that says that. It just says that a person named herein. Like it says, well, we have several persons named on this document. Which one is he talking about? See, this is how they get you here. The only connection you have with this document is that it comes in the mail, and you open the envelope, break the seal, you just assume the liability. Well, yes, they've been scamming us for a long time. It's time to expose the scam. I mean, if this document here is an actual operator's license, wow. Said your vehicle is exempt from tolls, parking meter fees. You get pulled over for for some alleged violation. Police officer won't be able to attach surcharges because your so-called driver's license that it indicates that you're engaged in commerce because you're a driver. That word driver is bastardized. I mentioned another video. A driver is a commercial operator. Now, we have to open Pandora's box, as they say. We have to take this document out and start using it. Does not belong in a filing cabinet, tucked away somewhere. Has to see the light of day. If you have any comments, list them below. But just remember, you're going to be reluctant to accept my position here because you've are firmly convinced that that boy toy in front of the house, that's your private property. It's not. You've believed the lie. You were duped. Said you're a victim of the car porn industry and your own self-deception. For those in Pennsylvania, you should write a letter to this Leslie S. Richard because his name appears in this document. And you have to ask him, I says, does this certificate of title prove that I own the mechanical device as private property? Well, I got to tell you some trivia here. If you really own the mechanical device as private property, you would still be in possession of the certificate of origin. So you were tricked into surrendering that document at the initial. If you ever bought a new vehicle, you were tricked into surrendering that document. Stop and think about it. Why is a certificate of origin confiscated at the initial point of sale? That's the property transfer receipt. That's like the vehicle's certificate of live birth. Now, if confiscation of the certificate of origin was mandatory, then this certificate of title would be issued automatically as a confiscation receipt, proof that the certificate of origin was taken into custody. But you're tricked. You're told that you have to apply for a certificate of title. When you apply for this document, that means you're surrendering the ownership and possession of the certificate of origin voluntarily. That's a slick move. So the state, or I would say today, it's this private corporation, ends up with that document free and clear because you just gave it away. One last thing concerning maritime salvage. Now, most cars today are financed, so that means that the bank buys the liability and then places a lien on this document and then transfers the liability to you because you're making payments. The bank could never place a lien on the actual mechanical device because it's federal property. The bank can't place a lien on federal property, but it can place a lien on the liability. So if you default on the loan, then you are no longer recognized as the liable party. And so then under maritime salvage, liability reverts back to the bank. And then this is why the bank sends a tow truck to repossess the VIN plate that happens to be attached to the automobile or truck. That VIN plate and the automobile or truck, they're two separate things. In fact, the VIN plate was supposed to say United States property, or property of the United States government, but they had to remove that because of the scam. Because they had the scam is that they have to convince you that you're buying the vehicle and it's your private property, but it's not. This scam has been going on a long time, long before you were born. Said there's nothing in this document that links you that you own mechanical devices private property. See, another video too is concerning your name. You and your name are separate things. They're two different critters. So your name, when it's on this piece of paper, becomes a person. You as a living, breathing man or woman, you are not a person. A name on a piece of paper is the person. But that's for another video. So to conclude now, said this document, it could be used like a handicap placard. Go up next to a parking meter, publicly displayed, that vehicle is exempt from the parking meter fee. Said just, you already paid your taxes in full for this person. This person is already, you paid all the taxes on behalf of this named person. All taxes have been paid. So you're exempt from tolls. And who's controlling the toll roads today? Private corporations. In my other video, so we don't have government anymore. We have a de facto government. We have a bunch of private corporations that are impersonating government. They're raping and pillaging the citizens, even the land. They're like blood-sucking parasites. They're just taking it all for themselves. So, like I said, you have any comments, leave them below. Until next video.